The rest of the country is celebrating hockey today, but it's awfully difficult to do that if you're a Penguins fan. Evgeni Malkin looking healthy for the first time all season, and a player that had not scored all season scored multiple goals today. You would think that'd be a sign of the team possibly winning, but the goaltending continues to be an issue. Regardless of how good Sidney Crosby plays, he continues to lead the way, but players such as Erik Karlsson continue to hold the team back. It was a very disappointing loss for the Pittsburgh Penguins today against the New York Rangers, a game that they played extremely well and they should have won. That was probably one of their best efforts in a game that they've lost this season, and there's a lot of good things to take away from that game. There was also a lot of bad things to take away from that game, and we're going to dive into it here on Penguins Digest. First, before I go any further, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Penguins Digest will provide the latest Pittsburgh Penguins content, whether it's news, rumors, updates. We got it all covered here on Penguins Digest, so subscribe to the channel and we will continue to provide those daily updates and daily coverage of your Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's dive right into it. And the first thing I want to talk about today is Evgeni Malkin, because him coming back in the lineup was huge for the Pens. And he had a goal today that I would call nothing less than a get-right goal. There was a different swagger out there for Evgeni Malkin today. He played like Evgeni Malkin. He looked slow for a very large portion of this season, and I'm starting to think maybe that's because he wasn't fully healthy. Because Gino, the Gino that I saw today, is a different version of Gino. The Gino that we have come to love over the years. He looked energized today. He went out there with purpose and played a very good hockey game. That cannot be understated how well Evgeni Malkin played for the Penguins today. He was one of the best players on the entire ice, not just on the Penguins side, but compared to all the Rangers players as well. He stood out. Every time he touched the puck, he was making magic happen. He was making very calculated decisions with the puck, taking care of the puck, and just being in the right place at the right time. That's the type of goal, a goal that I would call more lucky than good, sometimes can really turn things around for a player because it means his fortune is starting to turn for the better. Malkin has had a lot of bad luck bounces this season, but this time he was just ready for that puck to come right to him. Cody Glass made an excellent play, and Evgeni Malkin finished it off for the Penguins' first goal of the game. It was a huge one for Gino, and I think it could be a get-right goal for him. Like I said, he hasn't looked healthy all season long, and if he continues to play like this rejuvenated version of Evgeni Malkin, it's really going to help the Penguins down the stretch. We need this version of Gino. And the first person that I'm going to talk about getting injured today, because multiple players suffered from cheap shots today. The New York Rangers have a tendency to be a very chippy team, have a lot of moments where it's questionable whether it's legal or not, and this was one of those moments. Matt Rempe, who has a reputation of being an extremely dirty player, decided to take a cheap shot on our boy Matt Grzelcyk. And Matt Grzelcyk was injured on the play, did not return to the game. It was a very scary injury for Grzelcyk. He pretty much had his neck snap. I mean, he went headfirst into the wall, and his head went like this. It was not fun to watch. I was very worried for Matt Grzelcyk. He was down for quite a while. They went to commercial break. They didn't show him much after that. We kind of got back into it, but it was an extended commercial break. So Matt Grzelcyk took a little bit of time to get off the ice, and they knew pretty much right away that he was not going to return to that game. Rempe was only given a 2-minute minor penalty for his hit on Matt Grzelcyk. I do believe that that should have been a suspension, and he should have had a hearing with the league for that hit. Other people during the intermission report, analysts including Chris Chelios, said that it was not a dirty hit. Matt Grzelcyk was not even on the boards. He was a few feet away from the boards, so one you could call boarding. Another thing is he aimed right for his head. Matt Rempe went right for Matt Grzelcyk's head. And later in the game, Cody Glass also took a cheap shot to the head, an elbow. It was an elbow to the back of the head of from Vincent Trocheck to Cody Glass, and luckily Cody Glass was okay. He stayed in the game. He was one of the impact players for the Penguins in this game, but just the Rangers play. And I don't blame the players, because you can think back to a playoff series we had with them where Jacob Trouba unloaded on Sidney Crosby and took him out of the series. And that's what I think of when I think of the Rangers. I don't like playing them. I don't have much respect for them as a team, but it's really coaching more than anything else. We know this about John Tortorella coach teams. This has been a tendency for a very long time. So I'm not going to go any deeper than that, but those of you that know, you know. It's like Dana White says, if you don't know, now you know. So that's what I feel about this situation with John Tortorella coach teams and continuous dirty hits from the New York Rangers. This is just a type of game that they like to play, and I'm glad that the Penguins didn't fall into that trap. We got out pretty much unscathed. Hopefully Matt Grzelcyk is okay. That would be a big loss for the Penguins, and something that really affected the outcome of this game was back-breaking final minute goals. In the first period, the Penguins were pretty dominant, and then they gave up a goal with 50 seconds left, which is a back-breaking goal. I talk about it all the time. If you give up a goal in the first minute or the last minute of a period, it is debilitating. And if it happens in the first period or the last period, makes it even worse. So the Penguins playing a really good period of hockey and then having it all erased because of one shot, it really sucks. And the Penguins dominated pace of play. They dominated time of possession. They dominated shots on goal. They dominated in a lot of phases of this game. And that's why I feel like it's important to note it pays to be opportunistic. And the Rangers were very opportunistic. And this is why they were able to win the game. Because every time they got an opportunity to score, they scored. The Penguins had so many chances. Igor Shesterkin standing on his head, preventing the puck from getting in the back of the net. He was phenomenal today. Yoel Blomqvist, we can't say the same about him. We'll have more about Blomqvist later in the video. But really, the story of the game is that the Rangers converted on pretty much every opportunity they got, and the Penguins most certainly did not do that. So obviously, you got to look at the shots. The shots don't always tell the full story, but in this game, I think they tell you a great deal about how this game went. And I do believe that the Penguins dominated most of this game, probably about 85% of this game. And if you look at the shots on goal, 35-16. There was a time for, I think it was like 20 minutes where the Rangers did not have a shot on goal in this game. Now, the Penguins had a wide margin of time where they didn't have a shot on goal either, but the Penguins were just dominating. They had the Rangers on their heels, and they weren't scoring. They were finding ways to dominate the game, but Igor Shesterkin kept closing the door time and time again. He played so well in that game for the New York Rangers, and the goals that the Penguins did score, for the most part, were lucky bounces. They had a goal bank off of a defenseman, K'Andre Miller, Evgeni Malkin, kind of just a right place at the right time, backdoor situation. Just a ton of weird stuff happened in this game, but it was a very exciting hockey game. It's just that the difference was the Rangers were opportunistic and the Penguins failed to capitalize on opportunities. They were 0 for 3 on the power play. The Rangers scored on their only man advantage opportunity. So not just the shots, but special teams as well. The Penguins were not good enough on that front either in this game. So very disappointing loss for the Penguins. Let's continue to dive into it here on Penguins Digest as we talk about the Erik Karlsson experience. And don't even get me started on this guy. It's Sunday. It's supposed to be a fun day, and it's not a fun day watching Erik Karlsson. Sometimes I love watching this guy. I think he's an all-world talent, an all-world defenseman, and he makes great plays, and then he'll turn around and just turn the puck over so often. It seems like more often than anybody else on the roster. And that's the Erik Karlsson experience. He'll generate. He'll do great things. He'll also do a heck of a lot of bad things. And the bad outweighs the good a lot of the time with Erik Karlsson. Love Erik Karlsson. Always been a big fan of him as a player. But since he came to Pittsburgh, he has not been the same player. He played so well in the Four Nations faceoff. It got my hopes up that maybe he would turn things around for the Penguins. But it's the exact same version of Erik Karlsson that we had all season long and last season. This is the Erik Karlsson experience, and we're forced to live it. I'm at this point ready to just trade this guy away for a bag of chips. I mean, seriously, it's really starting to get on my nerves because I've defended him so much. And every time I do, I regret it because nothing changes with this guy. And that's just part of the Erik Karlsson experience. We're on this roller coaster together, guys. Let's continue to ride it all the way into the sunset. And hopefully Erik Karlsson, he's going to be a Hall of Famer one day, but he's definitely not going to be happy putting that Penguins logo on his plaque. I don't know what he's going to use, probably Ottawa, but he has not been good in a Penguins uniform at all since he got here, and that continues, and we continue to have to suffer. As we talk about Cody Glass, so I'm going to back up a bad thing with a good thing almost every time in this video because there was a lot of good in the game today. Cody Glass stamped his name. He had so many opportunities, so many shots on goal. He was playing physical. He was around the puck. It's like he had a magnet in his stick. He was always in the right place at the right time. Cody Glass constantly found ways to affect the game, and in this case, he affected a goal. He screened Igor Shesterkin. You see him right there standing in front of the goalie, and Igor had no idea where this puck was. Ryan Shea put it on goal from the blue line, and it went into the back of the net. It was all because of Cody Glass. Right place, right time, instinctual hockey player. All the bad things that have been said about Cody Glass, this guy's a hockey player. I mean, he has all the IQ in the world. Mike Sullivan loves him. I love him. I think we should extend him after the season. He's a restricted free agent. He is an awesome player, especially playing on a line with Evgeni Malkin. I like that duo together. With Brian Rust out of the lineup, moving Beauvillier up to that first line, having Malkin playing alongside Mr. Cody Glass is actually a really good duo on that second line. He plays a little bit more minutes, and he affects the game in a lot of ways. And I like him as a third line center as well, but it's something about him playing on a line with Gino on his wing. He's just so good, so effective in that role. And I love the way Malkin played today, but I also love Cody Glass's game equally as much as Gino's, and they made each other better. They both found ways to affect the game in different ways, and they both marked their name on this game. They both stamped it with a seal of approval. Evgeni Malkin and Cody Glass both playing exceptionally well for the Penguins today. Some lone bright spots for Pittsburgh moving into their next game against the Philadelphia Flyers, where we have to play them twice now. But when in doubt, follow Sidney Crosby. This is one of the main things that I took away from this game, is that whatever Sidney Crosby does, do it. Follow this dude. He might be the greatest captain in NHL history, the greatest leader. There was a moment in this game where Sidney Crosby checked somebody, okay? And then they get up in his grill. Sidney Crosby's like, nah, I'm not going to take that. Everybody thinks he's a soft player. Everybody thinks Sid's a pushover. He stood up for himself. Nobody else is going to stand up for him. He stood up for himself. He's cross-checking. He's chirping on his way to the bench, and he's getting into it. And that's when the game really started to turn for the Penguins, because they were starting to get into a little bit of a rut. But Sidney Crosby being physical, being aggressive, and just standing up for himself and just sparking that energy into the lineup. That dirty hit on Matt Grzelcyk, nobody even came to the aid of Matt Grzelcyk. And that's not something I want to see. I want to see the fight. I want to see these guys playing for each other, like the USA team played for each other in the Four Nations Faceoff. That's a Mike Sullivan coach team playing for each other, playing for something bigger than themselves. The Penguins rarely do that. You don't see them picking each other up and actually playing this physical brand of hockey that's required in today's game. They got out-physicaled by the New York Rangers from start to finish. They might have played a better overall game than the Rangers, but the physical side of things, they just didn't stand up for themselves. They didn't put up physically in order to keep up with the New York Rangers. And that's one of the main reasons they lost the game. But Sidney Crosby started to generate some type of physical play on the Penguins side and kind of just give them a little bit of a jolt in the middle of the game. And they just got to follow Sid. When he does that type of thing, he leads by example. He doesn't say a whole lot, but when he does, it's very reassuring. He leads by example more ways than any other way. And if the Penguins see Sid going out there and battling and just fending guys off and fighting for himself and fighting for this team, they need to do the same. And that's something I need to see from them moving forward. Follow the leader. Follow Sidney Crosby, because that's the dude that you want to pay attention to. Ryan Shea scores goals. And obviously there's a question mark at the end of that statement, because Ryan Shea hadn't had a single goal all season for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He scored 2 goals today. You would think if I come in here and I tell you Ryan Shea scored 2 goals for the Penguins, you're going to think there's no way they didn't win that game. Well, they didn't get a whole lot of other help other than the Gino goal. Ryan Shea scored most of their goals today. So it's kind of crazy to think about Ryan Shea being the leading goal scorer on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Usually, if that's the case, again, it'd be a good thing. Today, not necessarily a good thing. He got a lucky hop, like I said earlier. It bounced off Keandre Miller, went through the 5-hole of Igor Shesterkin. And the other one was just because Cody Glass was in a perfect spot to screen the goalie. But either way, his first 2 goals of the season, he killed 2 birds with 1 stone. 2 goals on the season and 2 goals in the game. So Ryan Shea, congratulations, buddy. I mean, he's been a guy fighting for ice time, fighting for a spot in the lineup. He got a couple of goals today, being rewarded for his hard work, and that is a positive that we can build on for the Pittsburgh Penguins moving forward. Ryan Shea getting a pair of tallies for the black and gold. As we move into the third period woes continuing for the Pittsburgh Penguins, it was their worst period of the game again. And I have this stat for you guys that I wrote down. They're 2-12-3 when tied at the end of the first period. So they actually have competitive first periods. The third period, no. They always falter in the third period. It doesn't matter what game it is, how big of a lead they have, how far down they are. I rarely see the same team in the third period as I see in the first 2 periods for this Pittsburgh Penguins team. And I don't know what it is. Is it strategy? Is it just laying off the gas? I don't understand it. I can't explain it. But every time they go out there in the third period, they look somewhat flat, or at least flatter than they were the rest of the game. There's a significant downtick in the Penguins' effort, momentum, and energy in the third period. Is it because we're an older team? I don't know. But they got dominated in the third period. They had the lead, and then the Rangers scored 3 straight goals to tie it, take the lead, and get an insurance tally. And that is just not what you want to see if you're a Penguins fan. That is not something that can happen. These late game collapses continuing to hinder the Penguins season. They've outplayed a lot of teams this season, and they have played well enough to win games all season long, but then these situations occur in the third period where they just collapse. It's literally a collapse, and there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, once it happens, it's like you look back, hindsight's always 20/20. We could have done this, we could have done this. Just play better in the third period. You got to play a full 60 minutes, and that's something this team has not been able to do pretty much all season long. And I need to see a 60-minute effort out of this team, especially in a game that you should win against the Rangers where they outplayed the Rangers. The third period was a different team. And that's why I said they outplayed them for 85% of it, because that third period was horrible. And they lost the game because of that. So I need to see more in the third period. These third period woes continue to haunt the Penguins. We need to turn things around in the third period. Last thing we're going to talk about today, Joel Blomqvist, because he is not ready yet. It's easy to blame the goalie. And there's a reason I saved this for last, because Joel Blomqvist didn't play horrible, but he also played pretty bad. He didn't play horrible, but he played pretty bad. A couple of the goals, I understand why they were let in. I totally understand. Great shots by the New York Rangers. The last goal that he let in, the fourth goal, the dagger to take the lead for the Rangers, there is absolutely no way you can let that puck in when your team is dominating the game. Now, you can make excuses for him. Okay, he's sitting back there. He's getting tired. He's getting bored because he's getting no action. And that happened. But late in the game, he is being tested. He's having a couple shots on him. It's not that anymore. It's just that he's not ready. He let a leaky goal get through under his shoulder and in his armpit, and I just can't see that go in. I cannot see that going, and he did not outplay Igor Shesterkin. Now, in the Penguins' case, their offense is their bread and butter. The Rangers' bread and butter is their goaltending. Igor is an all-world goalie. But Joel Blomqvist just had to be satisfactory. He just had to be decent. He didn't have to be great. He just had to be decent, mid. He wasn't mid. That type of goal is not a goal a mid goalie lets in. That's the type of goal that a Swiss cheese goalie lets in. And Joel Blomqvist looked like Swiss cheese today. So he's getting beat top cheddar. That's okay. But when you start letting these, fluky goals get in the back of the net, that's the end of it. And that was the end of it. That was the deciding goal, a goal that should have never went in. And that is proof that Blomqvist is not ready. There are so many excuses you can make for him in this game, and I love Blomqvist. I still think he can be a very good goalie someday. He's just not ready. And if we're actually trying to win right now, we need to go out and get a goalie. We need to go out and get a goalie. Even if it isn't just for this year and it's for the future, if Jari's not the answer, Ned's definitely not the answer. We need a goalie. And if it's not Blomqvist, maybe we try out one of our other prospects in the AHL, maybe Larson, maybe Murashov gets an early call and an early opportunity. But Blomqvist is not the guy right now. He needs to continue to develop. And if he's going to lose us games like this, which I'm not saying he did lose us the game, but he definitely helped us lose this game, he's not ready. He's simply not ready. He's very young. He's still very much a prospect, a work in progress. And a game like this really turns me off of Joel Blomqvist. So, thank you guys for watching this episode of Penguins Digest, kind of a recap of the loss to the New York Rangers. We've got plenty more hockey coming up. The season's back on after the Four Nations face-off. We got 2 games against the Philadelphia Flyers on Tuesday and Thursday. Really excited for those. A home-and-home series against Philly, our arch rivals, after losing to both Metropolitan Division opponents that we played this weekend, the Capitals and the Rangers. So a tough weekend for the Penguins, trying to bounce back on Tuesday against the Flyers. We'll have more videos before then. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next episode of Penguins Digest.